In this episode of Further North, Adrian from the DeeBrief gives us all the information on Charlie Spargo.
Ball away under pressure, but it's picked up by Archer again. He tries to crash through the pack. He does. He got through Maxwell, and he has a flying shot for goals. And that is a magnificent Glenn Archer goal. 2 in a minute to the man who's the shimmer.
Welcome back to Further North, everybody. Now, it doesn't get bigger than the off-season. Big recruits come to big clubs, and that's why Charlie Spargo is coming down to North Melbourne. And when you've got big recruits like that, you've got to go to the big hitters. Hello, sir. The DeeBrief is here. Adrian's here. Everything Dees. You're going to give me an insight into Charlie Spargo and maybe turn some North fans into Spargo believers, because I've heard some good, I've heard some bad about Spargo. It hasn't been a signing, not official yet, but it's been on our club website, so it's all but official that he's coming down. Hopefully you're going to turn some heads and make us think he's going to be the difference between us and the finals. Welcome to the pod, mate. Thank you for coming back on as well.
Mate, it's good to jump on. And yes, you're right. A very small man, but a big signing, a big recruit. But in all seriousness, I'm a Charlie Spargo fan, so I was definitely disappointed when I heard the news that he will very, very likely, 99.9% likely, head over to North Melbourne. Of course, there is that connection with his father who played for North Melbourne. I'm a bit gutted, to be honest with you, and you'll hear why when we dissect Charlie Spargo and what he can potentially bring to your club. But yeah, the sense when it came out was, the greatest nickname that we've ever given to a player on our podcast has left, and the nickname we coined was Little Chakwa Spargy Pants. So I'm disappointed. I'm bloody disappointed.
Well, look, if you'll give me your blessing, mate, I'm more than happy to take that one from you and pass it to the North people if you're happy to let it transition through.
Please do. The funny thing about that nickname, though, is I think it got through to him at some point, and I don't think he liked it.
What a good way that'll kick off our relationship as well.
That was the mail I got. But we come up with some stupid nicknames on our show, and I'm sure some of the players don't enjoy them. I'm sure some of the players actually don't mind the nicknames that we've given them. But a lot of DeeBrief listeners, a lot of faithful sending in messages to the page saying, what a shame that we have to retire that nickname from Charlie Spargo. But what I'm hearing in the here and now is maybe the legacy continues.
I'm more than happy to be that guy for you, mate. Look, I can see in your eyes how much it means to you, and I don't want to let you down. I'm happy to be the heir to the throne here if you give me your blessing. So look, we'll run with it in round 1 next year, and I'll see if he gets back to me. If Spargo, we can do it in Bay 29, get some Spargo signs up there, and if I can fit that many letters on a banner, I will.
It is lengthy, that's for sure, but a good player, a good contributor, where do you want to start? Do you want to go chronological? Do you want me to tell you about his 2018 year and go the whole way through? Because I'm happy to.
Well, my first question was going to sort of be touching on what you touched on before. How did you feel about it? Because I think that's a good gauge for the receiving club fans to know if the fans are like, that's fine, then it's not up to us to get too excited about it. But if you are saying you liked him as a player and you are a little bit gutted, nickname aside, to see him go, you clearly had some sort of rating for him. So how did you feel when you heard about it? And give us a little rundown on what you think he is as a player and what he's been for the Dees, I guess.
Well, there's a few parts to it. So Melbourne, as most people know, the contested Kings, the Bulls, forward half territory, inside 50s. We dominate all those particular categories, and we just can't find a way to kick a big enough score. It's our connection piece, which sucks. It's the reason why I think Simon Goodwin eventually fell on his own sword, because he just could not change his method. There were so many statistical nightmares for him because so much of our game was right in the last couple of years. Our ball movement improved even this year, but just that kick going inside 50 has been so hard to watch, so hard to swallow as a Melbourne supporter. It's been our Achilles heel. It's the reason why we've got a new coach now. And Charlie Spargo not being out on the field as much as he would have liked to have been in the past 3 years is a reason why I think we've really struggled with that connection piece. So anyone that knows Charlie Spargo and has watched him closely and is a Melbourne nuffy like myself will tell you he's the connector. And I think if he can just get his body right, this is a player that has only essentially played 3 full seasons in the 8 years that he's been in the system. That's a massive problem for Charlie. If he can get his body right, I think you've got an extremely useful player, particularly when it comes to that connection piece. So that was the first thing I wanted to mention. And as we've seen in modern footy, connection's everything now. Being clean is everything now. The transition game is the MO. It's what we've seen throughout the finals. I thought the way Hawthorn did a number on Adelaide on turnover and in transition the other night was exceptional. And that's modern footy. And Charlie Spargo fits right into that realm. It's just that big question mark. Can he get his body right? Because if he does, I think you're looking at a player that plays every game and will become a fan favourite. I'm actually a big fan of his. It's just the body has let him down. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's fair. And that sort of mirrors what some people have told me about him. At the barbershop, we talk a lot of football, and obviously last week we've been talking about Spargo, and, I've had a few Dees fans through, and they all say, as a decision maker, as a user of the football, he's the sort of guy that you guys wanted the ball in his hands. And that is what we lack, to be honest. And we've got no problem as a midfield getting the football out. It's who do we get the ball to then deliver it to our forwards. We get stuck like a lot of teams do. And it goes back to what you said about Hawthorn and the transition game. Collingwood is the same, where we end up bombing that ball in a lot to some players who aren't fantastic contested marks in Larkey and Darling. Hopefully Trembath is as good as we have seen, but we do need those pieces. When Dylan Stephens came in, I liked him. The fans didn't like him, but I could see what he offered in his disposal is very, very clean. He just didn't get the football enough. But this season, once he started getting the ball more, you could see he could use that football. Him, McKercher, even a Caleb Daniel when he's in the forward half of the ground, Sheezer when he gets the ball. If they've got the football, I think it's going to go into the forward 50 in a pretty decent way. And if Spargo can add to that, I think it can be a very, very big asset. The question is the body. If he's only played 3 full seasons out of 8, it's a little bit nervy for us North fans over here. But what have been the injuries that he's been dealing with? Has been separate things, one reoccurring thing over the years? Anything in particular?
Separate things, and off the top of my head, he had one of those horrible foot or ankle injuries like a syndesmosis or a plantar fascia or something akin to that. So that really derailed him in 24 parts of this year, even in 23 as well. So up until back end of 2022, he was in a good place and he was a very good contributor for the team. He's an honest toiler. He's a role player. He's a system player. He's all those things that internally you would love. But then unfortunately for him, as I said off the top, it's just those 3 years with these recurring injuries that has really held him back. The good thing for North fans, even though he popped his shoulder out and wasn't able to play in the VFL semi-final last week, it ended his season for Casey, is that he actually got quite a lot of continuity in his footy. Yes, it was at reserve level. And I think that's just because maybe he knew and his camp knew that he had one eye on North, and Melbourne just decided to persist with him at Casey and I guess get his minutes up, which is good for him because he just needs that continuity. It's absolutely critical for a guy like Charlie Spargo just to be playing footy. So the good news is there's a block of games there. There's some match fitness. I think I'm not sure what the go is with this dislocated shoulder. And given the fact he's not going to be a Melbourne player anymore, I don't know if I'd even look into it. But I think for North supporters, if he's fine and he comes off that okay, and then he can get himself into preseason, he can do a full preseason, then you've got a player, as I said, that I think should be a round 1 starter and could be a regular for this team and great connector. But also the other thing to mention as well, his pressure game when he first burst onto the scene in 2018, which was his first year of footy, was exceptional. So good. He quickly became a very popular player among all the Melbourne faithful because he was just a kid. And he played 18 games in that 2018 season. We won 2 finals. He was a bit quiet in the final against Geelong, the elimination final, but he was superb in the semi-final against Hawthorn. He kicked 2 goals and had 3 goal assists from 12 disposals. Yes, I did my research before. But I remember that game vividly from him. It probably could have been close to the best game he's played for us. And then you get into the 2021 season, which was his best year for the Melbourne Footy Club. We obviously go on and win a premiership. And again, he was vital in those finals. So he has had some really good moments. He is a player that has been injured far too much in his career, but he is a player, I'll go glass half full because that's the type of guy I am, and I'm on a North podcast. I think he's got a really good chunk of match fitness and footy, regardless of the fact that it was reserve level at the back end of this year, which I think should hopefully set him up for a good preseason. So, yeah, it's been topsy-turvy. It's been a big mixed bag for Charlie Spargo. He leaves the club as someone who will be fondly remembered. By all reports, he's just a lovely fella. He's a quiet fella. He likes to DJ on the side, so maybe he can do a club function so you don't have to hire someone. Put it in his contract. And you get a good, honest Albury boy who had a good, honest career for Melbourne. And he's one of those ones that, like, I'll watch from afar and certainly hope that he does it the business for North.
Yeah, okay. Well, talk to me about his 21 and 22 seasons. I mean, looking at the numbers, they're his best years, played nearly every game in those years, kicked goals as well. Was he playing more as a forward, more as a midfielder, sort of floating between? Like, what was his role on those teams, and how do you think he excelled the most over those couple of seasons?
He was pretty much just a high half forward who would get up, apply pressure, a link in the chain, a connector, as we've spoken about. Didn't hit the scoreboard probably as much as Melbourne supporters would have liked, but definitely was more a goal assist type of guy. And that was pretty much his role. He was there to harass, chase, apply pressure. He was there to hit up targets going inside 50. He was there to scrap and kick the odd goal every now and again. There was a knock on him from quite a number of Melbourne fans just about the fact that they believed that he couldn't kick more than 30 metres. So he did like the short, chiseled passes.
That's probably good for us if we just keep bombing it in the forward 50, to be fair. So as long as it's over 15, I'm pretty satisfied with that.
Exactly. So when he'd take a mark 30, 35 out from goal, you could hear a few murmurs in the crowd. They're like, is he actually going to kick the distance? I thought that was a bit harsh because then he would go back and, of course, he'd at least kick it 45 metres. But, yeah, definitely not a big kick. Rarely saw him kick it over 50 metres. Rarely saw him blaze away. Like, he was constantly looking for that little one in board or that little chip kick over the top, just, inside 50. So, yeah, he's an interesting player. He's very evasive in traffic as well, which is probably something I think is an underrated trait of Charlie Spargo's. And, yeah, he's quite nimble when he's in traffic. But those 2 seasons, 2021 and 2022, those were some of the things that we got from him on a regular basis. And, yeah, it's just a shame for him that 2024 was an absolute write-off. And then this year, again, interrupted, but comes back, plays some really good footy at VFL level. So hopefully he's just put all that behind him and this can be a new exciting chapter for him.
Yeah, a bit of a fresh start perhaps. It's do you think with him he's a player that can play maybe up on a wing or a slightly different position? Because when I look at it and some of the questions that the North fans have had already is we've got another half forward. We look at, obviously Zerha and Curtis are slightly different, but have been known, especially Zerha, to play in that role. Parker, Simpkin, there's questions over a player like Dersma, where he fits into the team, and then there's the smalls as well up there. We're trying to get a Cooper Harvey in there, a Geordie Payne, a Constanti plays down there. There are positions. And then long-term, potentially a Harry Sheasel if, depending on wherever he settles long-term. There's been questions over we've got heaps of half forwards. Does he move up to a wing where I think there's a spot to be held there. I think the left wing, Dylan Stevens, really held that down pretty well through the season. And then on the right wing, it was just chopping and changing with Simpkin, or, Dersma did play out there a little bit, or we threw a lot of different bodies out there, Tom Powell. Do you think that's a role that he could play, pushing down towards the back 50 a bit more on the wing? Because I can see him fitting in maybe more there on our list. But as you've said, he's definitely a link and plays more half forward. But do you think he could switch up into that role at all?
No, I really don't. I think it's categorical from me. He was never, ever a player that in any discussion that we ever had on our podcast, and he came into the system back end of 2017 and we started the podcast at the start of 2017. So he's there for pretty much the whole duration of the DeeBrief. And I don't think it ever popped into my mind or anyone else's minds about him potentially being a winger. The reason why, probably doesn't have as much toe as you would like. The engine not there to go up and down the field in the way that you would love a winger to. So I just don't think that's his game. I do potentially see a world where maybe North have sold him this idea of we'll start to put you in a midfield rotation every now and again. I can see him potentially thriving with a bit of time, a few CBAs. As I said, I think he's quite clever in and under and in those congested situations. So I could see a little bit of that happening, but primarily this is a guy that has really played the bulk of his footy as a forward, a high half forward. Yes, he could rest and he could be deep forward if he wanted to be, or if North wanted to play him there. But that's pretty much just his game. Is there another world where, because he's such a good ball user, you could potentially look at giving him some time behind the ball to hit up targets? Caleb Daniels kind of already a guy for that. Funnily enough, they are a similar height. So I don't know if you can roll with two, Garden Gnomes at the back there. So that would be really tricky. So yeah, I'd know to answer your question as a winger, but can you get creative with midfield rotation? And maybe a world that I've never really thought of is just him behind the ball and using those amazing foot skills of his.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting to see preseason games then. I mean, look, it's a long way away. It's months and months and months away, but I'm interested to see where he fits in, to be honest, because, our half forward stocks are pretty stacked. I'm not trying to spread any rumors here, but like recruiting a half forward like that, are there more questions over Dersma internally than maybe we think? Outside, we're talking about, do we try and get some value for him now because he hasn't looked great, or will it pop one day and we persist? Getting a Spargo is another player who would play not necessarily a similar role, but in a similar position. Parker, maybe a couple of years left for him, but he played very, very well. He just finished top 5 in our BNF. So, a very, very good player. I'm interested to see where he would fit in. I think we've given him a 3-year deal. I'm a little bit curious as to why maybe we would have given him that 3-year deal with his body. I can't imagine there would have been too many teams fighting over Spargo. Do you think there would have been a few teams after him? And do you think a 3-year deal is justified, or is that just a bit of the North tax because we're near the bottom of the ladder?
Might be a bit of North tax. Other clubs potentially looking at him. Yeah, maybe a few. Look, just to be brutally honest, I don't think he would be like high in demand. I think maybe fortunately for him, just given there's a connection with his father and North Melbourne, that was a carrot that management could dangle in front of North Melbourne, give him a new lease on life. So yes, I think there would have been a few teams, but not a lot of teams. He's a player that, as I've said on this show, just the injuries, they've curtailed him, they've derailed him. If we were talking about a Charlie Spargo that had played majority of games in the last 3 years, I think we'd be having a completely different conversation because we would hopefully look to get as much as we could for him, but the reality is he's going as a free agent, right? So we would be super disappointed if he was just a walk, if that were the scenario. I'm disappointed from a personal perspective. There definitely are other Melbourne supporters that are disappointed. It's just this harsh nature of sport now and online and media and everyone entitled and everyone thinks everyone deserves success and blah, blah, blah. That when a player like Charlie started to go through what he has gone through in the past 3 years and he's become a bit of a forgotten man, it's funny how quickly people can just go, oh, who cares? Yeah, all right, see you, mate, no worries. It's the nature of a lot of people now in sport and supporters. But I'm disappointed because at the end of the day, he's going to be 26 next year. He's still potentially got a lot of footy in front of him. And I know that a fit and healthy Charlie Spargo, he makes my 23. So, as I said, I just really hope that he gets a proper run at it.
I mean, look, new coaching at the Dees, it's going to be a different sort of era starting as of next year. Why do you think he maybe made that choice to move clubs? Just for a fresh start, maybe with injuries, or do you think any other reasoning for him behind that?
I think fresh start. I think, again, the link with North Melbourne and his old man. And
I wonder if he grew up a North fan. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he would have. I can't be 100% certain, but I reckon he would have. And he's a player that, you've been in the system for 8 years. He's probably sick and tired of driving to Casey as well.
Yeah, true.
I'd be sick of that. And, he's a pretty cool guy. So he wants to go north side. He wants to get a bit of north side culture in his diet.
Yeah,
so,
that's right. Fitzroy, Brunswick, hit up all the op shops.
Of course.
Overpriced Avo skin lattes. That sounds all right.
That's it. And he's a DJ after all. So I think all of those things considered, fresh start, new chapter, 8 years at the club. Maybe he's been pushed out as well. There's not a position here for you. If you stay, then who knows? Maybe you can put your best foot forward with the new coach. But I can understand why he's leaving now at this juncture in his career. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, fair. Well, look, that makes me feel a little bit better about it, mate, to be honest. I wasn't sure. I haven't seen much Charlie Spargo. I'm not going to lie. I mean, neither of Dees fans, I guess, the last few years. So it's, a little bit unknown to us exactly the role he plays. But no, look, a very crucial player through the premiership year and the year after. So hopefully we can find some form. And hopefully for the North fans out there listening, that's given everyone a little bit more confidence and made us a little bit more upbeat about the first, hopefully, of a few players through the door. But look, we might go for a few more minutes here just to get your thoughts on some things. Sure. New coach, how are you feeling about the Dees moving forward with King at the helm?
I feel great, to be honest. I'm very pleased, and I was getting a bit of intel over the process, and it's funny, Sam Edmund tweeted that James Kelly presented extremely well, and he actually got it wrong. It was Stephen King that he was supposed to be referring to, so that's hilarious. It's a good one from Sammy. So that threw a lot of people off during what was the quickest coaching process of all time. I think they officially got them in and interviewed them on Monday and then made a decision by Thursday night after a couple of follow-up interviews. So Nathan Buckley and Stephen King were the only two that were asked to come back for a follow-up interview. And Stephen King, my mail, and a couple of people who are close to the incoming president, Stephen Smith, said that they were just absolutely gobsmacked at how incredible his presentation was, head and shoulders above anyone else. There was some talk about how he's one of the great modern tactical minds, very big on the transition game, and we've seen what Geelong have been able to do in the last couple of years in that respect. He's recalibrated their entire midfield, so some of the statistics we've seen with Geelong with clearance and score from clearance and things like that can be attributed to King. So that's really exciting. But I think the biggest thing for me is we've plucked someone who is the right-hand man of arguably the greatest modern-day coach. If Chris Scott goes and wins another flag and salutes again, we're having that conversation. We're talking about him in the same way that we speak about Alistair Clarkson, of course. Lee Matthews is probably one that needs to be spoken about as well.
Dimmer.
And Dimmer, of course. So to learn in that environment, the most successful footy program, and kills me to say that. But at the end of the day, my hatred towards Geelong is just pure jealousy, really.
Yeah, it all is for everybody, mate. It's the same. I can't stand them, and it's only out of pure respect.
Of course. I remember standing on the terrace for the game earlier this year. I think it was round 4. Got food poisoning that night. That was great. So I was, go down there with a few boys away from the kids, want to have a few beers, got food poisoning, had a chunder after the game. Long smashed us, as they always do.
I think I remember you posted a video on your off your phone in the stands, didn't you, for that one? I think I saw that one.
Yeah, and I kid you not, I reckon 2 minutes after I uploaded it, I ran out the front of the ground and just started munting. So that's pretty graphic for everyone. But I'm painting a picture here, and I'm getting to it in a long-winded
normal
way.
circumstance outside that ground down in Geelong, I reckon.
Oh, it's the worst. I think I figured it out. I've been there 15 times in the flesh, and I've seen 2 wins. Yeah, it's crazy. Why do I do it to myself? Moron. But I'm in the stands, and they had this presentation with all of the club greats, and they're coming out with the 2007 Cup, the 2009 Cup, the 2011 Cup, the 2022 Cup, and they're just doing this big lap, and all the Geelong supporters are just sitting there clapping. And I'm looking at these great players going around in the Ford Rangers in the back of the ute, and like just this aura of success that they all feel like, and you can just all the supporters are transmitting it to the players that are sitting in the utes and holding up the cups, and I'm like, fucking hell, I'm so jealous, so goddamn jealous. But it did get me thinking. I spoke about it on my podcast on the Monday once I'd made a recovery, and I was like, I just want that. Like, I really want that as a supporter. I really want to walk into a stadium where they're all just having the greatest time ever. They're all just so relaxed. They're like, fuck, I go for a good club.
We're going to go watch some footy today, and we're probably going to win, and we're just going to hang out.
Yeah. And I thought we had that, and that's the disappointing thing for Melbourne. It looked like we had that, and then we've regressed greatly in the last couple of years. Like, that's the reality. And we're back to square one, and our membership numbers are a fucking joke, and we've got a lot of work to do. So I think Stephen King coming from that successful program is massive for our football club. We need winners. Apparently he's a hard ass. We need a hard ass. There were too many favourites. Goody was too close with the players. So all of those things I think are good for Melbourne. I'm wrapped. And Nathan Buckley, if we'd gotten him, I would have been wrapped as well. But Stephen King sounds like he's all in, and he was very close to getting the job at West Coast, and the health scare unfortunately derailed his chances of getting that job. And 2 years later, he's finally going to get his chance, and he's been in the system for 15 years. And as I said, he comes from the footy factory of Geelong, where they just fucking win all the time. So give me that, and that's what we're getting. So I think you got to be excited.
Yeah. No, look, I'd be excited too, mate. I remember how we touched briefly, before we started recording this, about when Clarkson signed and the excitement that we all had. I remember where I was, and I've never yelled so loudly in my entire life. So, obviously Stephen King doesn't come with a track record like a Clarko, and your club's not quite as down as we have been the last few years. But, you're getting someone from like you said, a system that works. And if that's what gets the Dees fans excited, that's a good thing. It's the hope that gets you, and you're going to ride that wave until it hurts. But until then, be happy and celebrate.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's going to be good, and it's going to be really interesting to see what's round 1, 2026. Who's he picking? Because we've been so used to Petrarca, Oliver, Viney, Gawn, like all in the middle, and I've got a big problem with that mix now. I think that mix is a bit washed up. It's not as dynamic as it once was. And just tactically, what's he going to do, and positionally, and who are the bolters that are going to come through that he loves in preseason? And a lot of players were getting played, and there was this notion from Melbourne supporters that Goody had all his favourites, and some of the players must have, photos of something dodgy that Goody's done, and all that stupid innuendo that you hear when players continuously get picked, right? And this guy's coming in clean slate. So I think the journey next year is going to be refreshing. It's going to be new. And my hope is that we don't put unjust pressure on the team next year. And that's where I wanted to wrap up. I wanted to ask you your expectations of North and how many games you think they should win in 2026, because I think for Melbourne, we won 7 this year and we lost so many close games, and that was annoying. But I think 10 wins for me next year will be absolutely fine if you can tell that we're implementing a brand that can potentially get us back to contending again. If that's what we end up with, I'm cozy. I'm happy. I think anything more than that will be icing on the cake. So that's where I've landed, and I'm interested to know what you're thinking about North.
I'm pretty similar. Yeah, I'm saying to people around the 8 to 10 win mark. I don't care about wins as much as I care about maybe the ladder position going into next year. I was sort of the opposite this year. I think the wins were more important. The stat that is getting thrown around, I've mentioned a few times on the pod, and I don't know if you've seen it, is we were equal first in the league for losses under 2 goals. So we lost 7 games by under 2 goals last year. 5.5 wins. I mean, I've always said I'll pass that Brisbane draw as a win. If it was a mid-table club, I would not. But hey, drawing with the reigning premiers for where we've been at's pretty good. So 5.5, 6 wins last season. We lost 7 by under 2 goals. With the young talent we've got, half of our best players being 20 years old, I think we showed this season that we've built a bit of a platform to be able to finally make a little bit of a jump. I think ladder position-wise, max 10th, but maybe more realistically around 12th. But if we can get in that 8 to 10 win bracket and really be firmly in that pack that at the end of the year we say, if only we won those 2 more games, we would have pushed for finals or we could have got in. That's sort of where I would see us. I don't think it needs to be what Chad Wingard and James Hurd said, we can make finals next year. I don't think that's very realistic. I think we need to chill out on that. I don't think that's in the realm of possibility, but realistically, yeah, let's get to that firmly in that middle pack. Depending on how the D's go, I think that is potentially a team that we could move above. The Bombers, I'm going to lock into that. The Blues, with all the players there missing, those 3 teams are probably the next 3 that I look at and be like, let's get above them. And then you got Ports and things like that. And I don't know. I don't even know what they're doing or where they're at with their new coach as well. So it'll be interesting, but I think we might be pretty close on the ladder next year, and we might have some good battles, mate. But yeah, that's sort of my expectation. Who's finishing above who, North or Melbourne? Get your hot tips in early.
Melbourne.
Oh,
surely.
Shock.
Surely. Come on, Melbourne. It is interesting though, because you're on a path, and yes, it's a long path, but I've said to you, I think you'll eventually get there, and we're about to embark on a new path, and we still don't know what we really are. Are we a rebuild, a reset? Are we a team that can play finals next year? Are we a team that will finish anywhere between 10 to 15 next year? I don't know. None of us know. That's the great mystery, and that's why I think we shouldn't put any expectation on next year. Well, yes, you need expectation. That's stupid, Adrian, but just not this, well, we need to bounce back. We've still got some great players on the list. We've still got premiership players. There's a lot of quality there. We should be playing finals next year. I don't think it's that as I sit here right now. No. It'll be interesting to see what happens over trade period and if we can attract some decent players. So I don't know. I don't know what we are, where we are, and one part of me is disappointed about that, but then the other part of me goes, well, that's great when you've got a new coach coming in with fresh ideas. So I don't know. But in a weird way, I think Melbourne and North Melbourne could conceivably get themselves, both of themselves, to a world in maybe 2027, 2028, where they're maybe both in the 8. So it could be similar times and similar paths for our football clubs.
Well, look, I hope so, mate. I'm sure us catching up after a game or running into each other in the concourse after a prelim where one of us is crying and one of us is extremely happy is going to be fun times for us, mate. But we'll meet you in the ground in a few years, all right? Let's hold the horses a tiny bit on that, but I'll see you there by 2020, 2029, 2030 maybe. We'll see.
Sure, that would be good. As long as it's not Geelong, Collingwood,
Hawthorn,
Brisbane, Hawthorn.
Yeah, like same old suspects.
we look at those prelims. What was the stat? I think it's 13 or 14 of them premiership teams of the last 23 years or something off the top of my head. It's the most successful organisations there at the pointy end, again, playing off against each other. Instead of whinging about it, because everyone fucking whinges now, like, X or Twitter is a cesspool for people whinging.
Yeah, I gave up on that, yeah.
Right. And just online sentiment in general, like it's so much outrage and negativity, and people being like, oh, this is terrible. Like all opposition supporters, oh, look at this is cruel. Look at the AFL have constructed. They've built a cartel, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, look at it as inspiration, draw upon it and go, well done, and tip your hat to those organisations and go, okay, well, hopefully my club can channel a bit of what they're doing and break the mould and get into prelims ourselves. So I look at it completely differently and I go, that's who we want to be.
Yeah.
Like, let's go and chase it. I don't look at it and go, oh, what a shame. Like, it is what it is. Like, the best teams, the best environments clearly are getting the best results and getting themselves into these positions. And the North Melbournes and Melbournes of this world need to level up and chase down these teams like the rest of the competition does. So, yeah, it's a really interesting juncture for both of our clubs. I'm going to be watching on with great interest next year, particularly North, because I think now there's going to be a little bit of pressure coming on to say, to your point, come on, guys, we've got to get those 8, 9, 10 wins next year. We've really got to start ramping it up. So I think the footy world will probably watch North Melbourne with more interest than ever before next year.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think we've got more pressure. The young guys we got are getting games into them now. I mean, Shees was just won his second best and fairest. We've got one of the, arguably our two clubs have the two best ruckmen in the league. There's players there now for us. We've got a forward that nearly every club in the league would die to have, So we've got players there. If we can get some recruits in, to shore up our back line and our team can learn to defend the ground better, I don't think there's any reason why we can't make that jump. I mean, like you said, everything's so negative. People just hear the word North Melbourne and go, nah, they're rubbish. But realistically, we've got a lot of talent there. We've got a coach who's won premierships. There is a little bit more. I don't think it's pressure to make finals. I think the media will frame it like that. I think they'll expect much bigger things than they should. But realistically, yeah, if we can be in that, 8 to 10 win mark, that 10th to 12th, ish sort of team, I think that's a good realistic step with everyone signed, with everyone sort of 20 to 25 on the list. I'm still pretty excited about the future, mate. So, sure. Oh, geez, you're selling me a dream now, man. And a nice little Charlie Spargo sized cherry on top of that. Oh, wow. Talk to me now. There's silverware coming.
Little Chuckwa. We love him. Just really quickly, who is your top 5 in the BNF? Curious.
Oh, I have to look at the thing. It's Sherry, Sheasel. It would have been Parker. I've got the photo right here. Hang on. Sheasel, Sherry, LDU, Parker, Simpkin, and Caleb. Daniel was 6th and was 6th by 2 points. So it was very, very close after that.
Usual suspects. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. I mean, look, obviously 2 recruits there in Simpkin and Daniel. Oh, not Simpkin, in Parker and Daniel, sorry, that were up there as well. So clearly they were very good. We love what Darling did. You got Colby, number 7 there. Tom Powell, Cam Zerha, and Paul Curtis. So a lot of young names in that list. And that's very, very exciting for us because we want them to be doing those things.
I think Zerha needs to push up a bit more. I'd love to see Zerha nestling himself in at 3 or 4 next year in the BNF.
Yeah, career best goals wise. I mean, 40 goals for the season or just under 40 goals. Missed a few games through injury, but would have been a 40 goal contributor. Paul Curtis obviously would have kicked 39 or something, I think. So would have got over 40 if he wasn't suspended for 4 weeks. Larky will have a better season next year. He was out for nearly 2 months of the year. So, those 3 guys are going to bring a lot of goals to us. I think Zerha found his mojo a lot. I think we dabbled with him playing up the ground and getting more involved. I don't think he's that type. Not that De Goey type you could throw in the midfield. Curtis actually did a bit of that. I think he's maybe more likely that type. I think Zerha just is – we tried to isolate Zerha a lot one-on-one in games and get Larky up the ground a little bit. And Curtis or Zerha, I think if they're isolated in the 50, I'm probably backing them to win the contest more often than not. So I think he found his role. And, North fans were very suspect over Zerha's 5-year contract coming off the last couple of years where it's been a bit underwhelming, and a fantastic job by him to sort of get that 5-year deal and then arguably have a career best year. So, yeah, I'm excited. I think if he keeps playing like that, though, he'll absolutely be there. But then, look, you've got O'Sullivan's, McKercher's, Wardlaw, who wasn't in there, Sheasel's. They're all vying for that spot. Sherry's going to be up in that conversation. So we're on the right track, mate. Slower than we'd like, but hey, it's going in the right direction.
Some talent there when you say those names. Wardlaw, what a unique player. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, if he can get his, well, once again, we say this, body right, but like when he came back from that concussion, that's the best footy I've seen him play for the club. So,
yeah, he's good. Yeah. Paul Curtis is the one for me. I love watching him play. He is a jet. No, it's
apparently
good.
not in the best 22 under 22 though. So, hey.
Makes no sense. All those awards
does it?
Stupid.
Yeah, who makes those? It's rubbish list anyway. Who cares?
They're all rubbish. All those awards are rubbish. The only award I care about is Coaches Association, to be honest. It's the only one. And then everything else should be team success, team driven. That's why they play the game. And I don't really care too much for All Australian and these types of things either. I never have ever. And I'm weirdly not as big on the draft as a lot of other people because my whole thing is, well, once they come into a system, then you start to get a better sense of what they're actually like. So, yeah, I'm not the biggest draft guy. I don't get into the weeds on that either. And maybe that's because I'm scarred by Trengo and Scully and Jack Watts, maybe.
Yes, yeah, maybe. I mean, look, we've had some shockers. We've had some great ones recently. I'm sort of similar. The draft is good, but I think there's a certain point, and I think that's where we're at now, where our draft picks are probably better be utilised getting some players into the club that that are ready to go. All those young players we just talked about. I mean, we've got our core there. It's just get some players in who are ready to teach them and show them how to play some football. That's why I love the Daniel deal. I know that people criticise it and maybe he wasn't up to standard last year, but he's finished top 6 in our BNF. And, when we've got a better defence behind him, he looks pretty good. And they're the sort of players we need to start getting. So I'm not crazy about the draft. Obviously we've got some guns from it, but I hate when we do that thing where we all look and go, oh, you picked him over him. Well, at the time, no one would, if that was the other way at the time, we would have criticised it anyway. I hate those conversations. Every club's got a million of these, and Brady Rawlings for us gets criticised. You didn't pick this guy, didn't pick that guy. Every single club has millions of those sort of players.
I know. Sliding doors. Oh, he could have got Dusty. Oh,
well, yeah, true. Yeah.
We probably would have ruined him because our environment wasn't set up correctly anyway, so who cares? Yeah. Anyway, it's what it is.
It's all right. We don't have to air out our dirty laundry on the show here, mate. We've cried enough as is over the last 20 years of our football club. So, but you've seen a flag and you've seen prime Charlie Spargo. So that's the main thing. But look, maybe a 2026 Charlie Spargo is going to be something different. Let's hope.
I hope his prime years haven't even happened yet.
Oh, I appreciate that, mate. I needed to hear that.
Let's end it on that. And I was very polite. I haven't said anything about your Arsenal top, but get that shit off.
Look, once your two power forwards up front learn to play together, which might be in a few years' time, we'll see how that goes. But, the difference was one free kick, mate. That's the only goal this entire season we've conceded. So we'll see what it's like after 38 games, all right? Settle down.
We'll be fine. Look at this great man. Change the fabric of the club. Do a Stephen King. Stephen King needs to read this book.
Yeah, well, yeah. Was it one Premier League over the whole time, or we get 2 in the end? Who knows? But
we can talk about that later. All right. Well, it's been fun. It always is fun, and yes, we will continue to dissect all the happenings and going ons with our 2 football clubs over the next 5 to 6 months. There's a long way to go.
Well, look, we'll try. Maybe we'll get you on for the North Dees preview whenever that will be next year, and we can have some Spargo chat then, which sounds very exciting to me.
Yeah, sounds good. I love it. Thanks for having me, Josh.
We'll chat to you then.